Today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 33, Text 38. Brahma-rātra upāvṛtte vāsudevānumoditāḥ anicchantyo yayur gopyaḥ sva-gṛhān bhagavat-priyāḥ brahma-rātra upāvṛtte vāsudevānumoditāḥ anicchantyo yayur gopyaḥ sva-gṛhān bhagavat-priyāḥ brahma-rātra upāvṛtte vāsudevānumoditāḥ anicchantyo yayur gopyaḥ sva-gṛhān bhagavat-priyāḥ. Sva-gṛhān bhagavat-priyāḥ brahma-rātra upāvṛtte vāsudevānumoditāḥ anicchantyo yayur gopyaḥ sva-gṛhān bhagavat-priyāḥ vāsudevānumoditāḥ anicchantyo yayur gopyaḥ bhagavat-priyāḥ. Mataji's brahma-rātra upāvṛtte vāsudevānumoditāḥ anicchantyo yayur gopyaḥ sva-gṛhān bhagavat-priyāḥ. Brahma-rātre, the nighttime of Brahma. Upāvṛtte, being completed. Vāsudeva, by Lord Kṛṣṇa. Anumoditāḥ, advised. Anicchantyaḥ, unwilling. Yayuḥ, went. Gopyaḥ, the gopīs. Sva-gṛhān, to their homes. Bhagavat, of the Supreme Lord. Priyāḥ, the dear consorts. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace Śrīla Prabhupada. Translation. After an entire night of Brahma had passed, Lord Kṛṣṇa advised the gopīs to return to their homes. Although they did not wish to do so, the Lord's beloved consorts complied with his command. Purport. In the Bhagavad-gītā 8:17, Lord Kṛṣṇa explains, by human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together is the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. Thus 1,000 ages entered within a single 12-hour night when Lord Kṛṣṇa performed his rāsa dance. Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī compares this inconceivable compression of time to the fact that many universes fit neatly within the 40-mile range of earthly Vrindavan. Or one may consider that Mother Yashoda could not encircle the small abdomen of child Kṛṣṇa with numerous ropes, and that at another time he manifested many universes within his mouth. The transcendence of spiritual reality above and beyond mundane physics is concisely explained in Śrīla Rupa Goswami's Laghu-bhagavatāmṛta. Evam prabho priyanam cha damnascha samayasya cha avichintya prabhavatvad atra kinchin nadurgatam. Nothing is impossible for the Lord, his dear devotees, his transcendental abode, or the time of his pastimes. For all these entities are inconceivably powerful. Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī further explains that the word vāsudevānumoditāḥ indicates that Lord Kṛṣṇa advised the gopīs, to assure the success of these pastimes, you and I should keep them secret. The word Vāsudeva, a name of Kṛṣṇa, also indicates Lord Kṛṣṇa's plenary expansion, who acts as the presiding deity of consciousness. When the word Vāsudeva is understood in this context, the word vāsudevānumoditāḥ indicates that the presiding deity of consciousness, Vāsudeva, manifested embarrassment and fear of their elders within the gopis' hearts, and therefore it was only with great reluctance that the young girls returned home. Om ajnana-timirandasya jnananjana salakaya chakshurunmilitam jena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya manobishtam stapitam jena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati sva-padantekam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is the next to the last sloka of the description of the pastime of the rasa dance that Krishna enjoyed with 300 million gopis all at once. Krishna's original intention was to attract Srimati Radharani, because eternally they're united in transcendental love. At a very young age, he began practicing his flute songs, specifically to attract Radharani. But when he played his flute, not only Radharani was attracted. So this night also, when Krishna, we know Krishna's pastimes, his daily pastimes, he comes home from the forest, herding the cows. He's covered with the hoof dust of the cows. So his mother welcomes him. All of the elderly gopis and gopas are waiting for him to return. Mother Yashoda bathes Krishna. There's a wonderful festival every evening. They hear the pastimes of Krishna. They enjoy wonderful prasad. And then Krishna retires to his room to take rest. Now, this was not the first night that Krishna would sneak out of his room to enjoy with the gopis. But this is the night of the rasa dance. And Krishna waited an entire year for this particular moon to appear in the Sharat season. Because you remember, when Krishna was a year before, the gopis, during the Margashirsha, they performed their worship of Katyayani Devi. So Margashirsha comes after this time. And he promised them that I will fulfill your desires, I will become your husband. So he had to wait for the most beautiful night of the year, this Sharad Purnima, in order to effect the love of the gopis to attract them to take part in this maharāsa. Now the effect of rāsa, this maharāsa itself, is what created the beautiful atmosphere. In theatrics, when one man dances with many girls in a circle, that's called a rasa dance. So Krishna, after he took rest in his room, he had 4 of his friends, Dhamma, Sudama, Vasudama, and Kinkina. He had them guard the doors and the windows so no one would know that he had left the room. He went southeastern to the beautiful place that's so close to us here at Bansivat. There is Dira Samira, where the beautiful breezes of the Jamuna are coming. There were no buildings and roads and cars. Nothing was there, just beautiful breezes and flowers and trees and sand as white as the moon, and sweet water, flowers in the water, flowers out of the water. So Krishna chose this most beautiful place to have his pastime of the rasa dance. There was sufficient space on the bank of the Jamuna, and the Jamuna was spotlessly clean. So he began to play his flute. All the women, including Srimati Radharani, they dropped whatever they were doing and they ran to him. Now, how is that? Because we heard 1 or 2 slokas before that the bodies of the gopis remained by the side of their husband, but they ran to him. Now, we'll describe how this happened later, because Srila Jiva Goswami gives a very exact scientific explanation of this from the Shastra. In the meantime, we should understand in this sloka that after enjoying the duration of a brahma-rātra, that's 1,000 yugas, 1,000 ages, each age has 4 yugas in it, millions and billions of years passed during this night. 300 million gopis, Krishna was enjoying with each one of them. Radharani, when she saw that he was treating everyone equally to herself, she got angry. Krishna had to chase after her. He followed her footprints and stepped right in her footprints. And when she saw how devoted he was to her, her anger broke. They had their pastimes. The gopis, they searched for him in great separation, asking all the trees, the plants, the animals, have you seen Nanda Suno? So many, many pastimes took place before the actual maharāsa was enacted by Krishna and the gopis. There was another event previous to this, and that was when Krishna, the cowherd boys, they were hungry, and Krishna told them to go to the wives of the Brahmin, because surely they would feed them. Now the wives, when they heard that Krishna and Balaram were nearby, they dropped everything, they left their families, just as the gopis did. They went running with the vessels on their head to meet Krishna, beautiful Krishna in the forest. They had, since their childhood, they had been hearing about Krishna. They had never seen him yet. When they saw him, they took him within their eyes and embraced him in their heart. And Krishna, he welcomed them the exact same way he welcomed the gopis. Svagatamvo Mahabhaga, you're most fortunate ladies. Welcome. Please sit down. What can I do for you? Why have you come here in the middle of the forest? So this same sloka, Krishna welcomed the gopis when they arrived. And he gave them the exact same instructions. A little bit, reasons are different, because the gopis came in the dead of night, and it was the daytime that the wives of the Brahmins came. But he said to them the exact same sloka, 2 times, just like in the Bhagavad-gītā. The most important verse begins with Manmana Bhava Madbhakto, and Krishna repeats that twice. So this sloka that Krishna repeated both to the wives of the Brahmins and to the gopis. Shravanad Darshanad Dhyanan Mai Bhavo Nukirtanat na tata sanikarshena pratiyata tato grihan. Even if you don't know Sanskrit, we've heard enough in the classes. Shravana darshana dhyana. By hearing about me, by seeing my deity form, darshan, by meditating upon me, then you will be able to develop your love for me, not by being close to me. This is called maryada in transcendental etiquette, that the deity and the guru, we should always maintain a distance because familiarity breeds contempt. So this exact same sloka was spoken both to the wives of the Brahmins and to the gopis. The wives of the Brahmins were defeated because Krishna very strongly convinced them that you are Brahmanis. I am in the form of a cowherd boy. How can I take service from you? They said, well, we don't want you to take service. We'll just stay here in the forest. We'll take the tulsi leaves that fall from your garlands, and don't worry about us. We can't go back to our family. We'll serve Mother Yasoda in her house. But Krishna, as a young boy, he thought, this is not going to work. These elderly women who are married, some of them have grown sons. How can they be my maidservants like this? So he convinced them to go back. Now, they left all the food with them, with the cowherd boys and Krishna. Krishna distributed it. There wasn't enough because there were so many cowherd boys. But within their bellies, Krishna made them all satisfied. Afterwards, when they had eaten the succulent foodstuffs that the Brahmanis had brought, Madhu Mangal said, why did you send them away? They were willing to stay here. We could have kept them hidden in a hut, and they could have cooked for us every day. So, of course, they called him a glutton. You're just thinking of your belly. No, I'm thinking of all of you and of Krishna. We could have had this wonderful prasadam every day. Now, when Krishna said this exact same sloka to the gopis could not be defeated. Their love was so strong, and they matched with Krishna. Since childhood, they loved Krishna. They had been meeting Krishna, having pastimes with him, since their very childhood. Now was the night that they were all waiting for, that Krishna promised to them 1 year earlier. So they weren't going to go home. And Krishna had to accept that. Therefore, he began the rāsa dance. And before the rāsa dance, the gopis, they gave a little riddle to Krishna, that which type of lover is the best? The one who reciprocates as he is given love? The one who doesn't reciprocate at all? The one who gives his love whether he's reciprocated or not by the opposite party? Or the person who's ungrateful, inimical, even when people serve him, they show no gratitude whatsoever? Now, Krishna could understand from this riddle that they were trying to catch him, saying that he was ungrateful for their love because they had given up everything. He said, no, you don't understand. The reason I disappeared was simply to increase your love for me. Because without vipralamba, sambhoga cannot develop. The two go together. Just like you have light and you have dark. You have heat, you have cold. You appreciate the heat when you've experienced cold. So you appreciate the sambhog, the direct enjoyment with me, when you've experienced the vipralamba. And therefore, I very often show indifference to my devotees just to increase their love for me. So the gopis were satisfied with that. And then the last verse of the previous chapter, I can never repay you for all the love that you have given to me. You simply be satisfied with your own service. Topmost gem of a sloka that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would also repeat. Now, these 5 chapters, they're kept hidden right in the middle of the 10th canto. And within the audience, when Sukadeva Goswami was speaking, because we have to remember that Sukadeva Goswami, he was Krishna's parrot. He saw all of these pastimes, but it was a mixed audience. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all of the great acharyas, they do not speak of the confidential pastimes in public. So why are we having this Bhagavatam class in public? That's because for the first time in as many years as the temple, we could say 1972, the devotees started having their Bhagavatam classes here. That's over 50 years. For the first time, we have tread on this path of going beyond the 13th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we must be very careful. That's because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he wanted to hear these transcendental pastimes, he did not speak them publicly. He left Jagannath Puri, he went all the way to the bank of the Godavari River and he met Ramananda Roy. And there, just the 2 of them, only 2 people, the Ramananda Samvad. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu posed himself as an impersonal sannyasi. He said, I know nothing, but I was advised by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to hear from you, because you understand this rasa tattva. Ramananda Roy, he was, according to Srila Prabhupada and Chaitanya Charitamrita, the incarnation of Vishaka Devi, who was non-different, born exactly at the same time as Srimati Radharani. She was there in all of the pastimes. So Ramananda Roy, he was the ideal person to speak rasa tattva. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu posed himself as completely ignorant of the entire tattva. So when he asked, what is the perfection of life? Ramananda Roy quoted the Vishnu Purana, that perfection of life is to perform varnashram dharma for the satisfaction of the Lord. No, go further. Further was yad karosi, yad asnasi, whatever you do, you offer to the Lord. No, go further. Sarva dharmam parityajya. No, you have to go further. Brahma bhuta prasanatma, or all of these slokas, we know them. And Ramananda Roy, he was presenting them to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not satisfied. He wanted to go deeper and deeper into what is the perfection of life. So then Ramananda Roy, he said, Dasya rasa is the topmost perfection of life. Yes, that's true, but go further. Sakya rasa is the supreme perfection of life. Yes, true, go on. Vatsalya rasa is the supreme perfection of life. Yes, you're right, but I want to hear more. Finally, he came to Madhurya rasa, the supreme perfection of life. And from there, for 10 days, they discussed Radha Tattva, Krishna Tattva, all of the gopis, different qualities, everything. And everything is given beautifully in the Madhya Lila of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's why Chaitanya Charitamrita is called the postgraduate study. We first study the Bhagavad-gītā, the ABCs. Then we go on, spoken by Krishna himself, we go on to hear about the trials and tribulations of the devotees, how they became pure devotees, fall downs, all of the description of the different planetary systems, Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, hidden here, we get a small taste, because Sukadeva Goswami, for 2 reasons, he didn't speak much. Number 1, because of the mixed audience, and number 2, if he spoke too much about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, he would fall into ecstasy and he wouldn't be able to speak more, and time was short. So we only gave a very small opening of a window of these pastimes. He only indirectly mentioned the name of Srimati Radharani for that reason. Otherwise, his ecstasy would have increased too much and he would be stunned. So, this verse, Krishna, after having enjoyed the full night of Lord Brahma with the gopis, he now says to them, it's time to go home. Well, it was time to go home because we know during Brahma-muhurta, there's a little faint, what's it called? Basha, nama basha, when there's a faint rising. So during this Brahma-muhurta time, they could see that the moon was fading and the sun was preparing to rise. Now, they wouldn't be able to enjoy like this in full daylight. So it was time for the gopis to go back to their homes. It was also time for Krishna to run back to his home. Now, here we are in Vrindavan. Krishna's home is 40 kilometers away by car. It takes an hour and 10 minutes to get there. You can imagine how long it would take to walk there. How was he able to get there? Well, the devotees asked Prabhupada that. And Prabhupada explained, just like here, the time, the pastimes, the dham itself, all of these cannot fit within the physics of mundane logics. So the dham expands and contracts according to the need of the pastimes. So all the gopis returned to their homes on secret paths. They put their clothes back because everything was disheveled. They snuck back into their rooms before daylight during the Brahma-muhurta time. Krishna also, he had to go back. The 4 boys, they were guarding, they were sitting on the top of the trees, making sure that nobody would come in during the Maharas. Now they went back with Krishna. So all of the different rasas serve this Maharas. For instance, we have so much mention of the birds, the sand, the sky, the flowers, the trees. They're all in Shantaras, but they're all serving this Maharas. The boyfriends, Krishna had them come to guard. The mothers and fathers, if there's not an obstacle, the greater the obstacle, the greater the bliss upon meeting. So the mothers and the fathers, they served as that obstacle that the gopis had to overcome, and Krishna himself also had to overcome. And then finally, you have the recipients of that pure Madhurya Ras. That's all of the gopis, headed by Srimati Radharani. Now, Krishna wanted to make it very clear before the Maharas began that there's only one supreme gopi in his heart, and that was Srimati Radharani. So in the beginning, when he was dancing with everyone equally, Radharani felt that he's treating everyone equally, but I'm most dear to him, so she left. Therefore, Krishna also left to follow her. And when he left, and the gopis finally realized that it was Srimati Radharani who Krishna had left with, everyone understood that she was the most dear to Krishna because she did the most sublime service to him. Therefore, in this Maharas, Krishna would stand, he was standing between each gopi. Each gopi thought that only Krishna is with me. But in the center of the Maharas, there's Radha and Krishna is alone with Srimati Radharani. This we have to understand, the super excellent position of Srimati Radharani. Now, to go further, because this Parakiya Ras is very difficult for the materialist to understand. In the section of the Ramananda Samvad, Prabhupada gives an example that one materialist, he was hearing this Maharas, and at the end he said, "Oh yes, when I hear the name of Radha, I remember the barber's wife." So the materialists, when they hear about the pastimes between the gopis and Krishna, they compare it to their own material enjoyments, and they get ideas how they can enjoy more in illicit manners. So Jiva Goswami, he was the son of Anupam, the nephew of Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. He studied Sanskrit in Navadvip. Nityananda Prabhu took him under his shelter. He went to Benares and studied under Madhusudan Vanaspati. He was a scholar to the topmost degree. And then he went and took shelter of his uncles in Vrindavan. And when his uncles disappeared, he became the acharya for all of the Vaishnavas in the whole world, Bengal, Orissa, and he's still our acharya as well. Srila Prabhupada took shelter of Jiva Goswami at the Radha Damodar temple. For 3 years he lived there and took inspiration from Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami. So Jiva Goswami, he could understand that the sahajiyas already are taking advantage of this parakya ras. There are 13 main upasampradayas, the owls, the bauls, the saki bekis, the jati gosais, many of them. Some of them, they believe that with their material body, they can please Krishna. Therefore, they dress up as gopīs. Therefore, they enact the rasa lila with young girls. This is all sahajiya. And Jiva Goswami wanted to completely smash this. So the way he did this was, when Krishna, he tells them, sva-gṛhān bhagavat-priyāḥ. The gopis, they went back to their own homes, their grihas. And they were all so dear to Krishna. So the griha, that's where the women live. And they oversee all of the household duties of the husband, the children, the in-laws, everyone. So Jiva Goswami, he proved by many different slokas in the different Puranas and the Tantras, Gopal Tapani Tantra, etc., that actually Radharani and all of the gopis are eternally married to Krishna. It did not interfere with the parakya ras that we see in the Bhoma Lila. Because in the spiritual world, just as here, for one full night of Brahma, now in the spiritual world, one night of Brahma is also just a flick of a second, because the time is eternal. But they danced in their spiritual bodies with Krishna for that full duration of a full night of Brahma. So the parakya bhav still exists, both in the spiritual world and in the Bhoma Lila. And what Jiva Goswami did was, he wrote a very special book called Gopal Champu. And he followed through with all of the exact same lila that Sukadeva Goswami has given to Parikshit Maharaj in brief form. And he elaborated upon it. So when the gopis ran back to their homes and they had to take care of their husbands and their children and their in-laws again, they felt intense separation from Krishna. Now Krishna, very soon after this, it's explained that Krishna left here when he was just 11 and 12 or 12 years old. He's 8 years old at this time. So for 3 years, he had pastimes with the gopis until it became too evident. And the mothers-in-law started to lock up the gopis because the gopis, the cowherd women, they were getting a bad reputation. Everyone was hearing about how they were meeting Krishna at night. So Krishna's pastimes were stifled then. And he decided, well, now if Mother Yasoda hears about this, then how will I be able to face her? So Narada Muni, this is described by Jiva Goswami, recommended to him that if you have some bad reputation, we do this also within our ISKCON. If there's some scandal, what do? Go to Mayapur for 6 months. Leave, everyone will forget about it, then come back and do your service. So Narada Muni recommended to him, all right, your name is being sullied, all the gopis, they're being locked in their house, you can't even have your pastimes anymore with them. better, now's the time to go to Mathura and kill Kamsa and kill all the demons. And then when they'll all forget, then you come back. So this is how Jiva Goswami explains it. So then Krishna decided to leave. He went to Mathura, and the gopis, not only the gopis, every single inhabitant of Vrindavan were just in the fire of separation, but especially the gopis. They were just like dried up plants that hadn't had water. So Krishna was away for about 100 years. He said he wouldn't come back until all the demons were killed, because he was afraid that if he came back, then the demons would disturb the inhabitants of Braja. So he had to kill all the demons before he returned to Braj. The last demons that he killed, you remember Krishna in the Rajasuya, he killed Sishupal. Sishupal had many supporters and friends, and they hated Krishna. One of them was Dantavakra. Now he worshipped Lord Shiva to get a special club, especially to kill Krishna. And he decided that when Krishna came home to Dwarka, he would be waiting there at Mathura, because it's on the way, and he would kill him there. So he waited and waited. Narada Muni saw this fool waiting outside of Mathura, and he's always trying to speed up the Leela. He came and he said, "What are you waiting here for? Why don't you just go to Dwarka and kill Krishna?" He said, "No, I want to kill him here." Narada Muni told him, "Krishna has just killed Salva." "No, that's impossible. Salva he couldn't be killed." "No, I promise you. He just killed Salva. He's very tired. So I will go tell Krishna that you're here and bring him here so you can kill him." So Narada Muni went. He told Krishna that he's waiting for you. Dantavakra is waiting for you. You go now. So Krishna immediately, he had just killed Salva, and everyone in Dwarka was so tired from the fight. They did a siege around Dwarka, and he said, "I just have one more demon to kill. I'll be right back." He told Daruka, quickly, within the flash of an eye, they reached the gates of Mathura, and there he was waiting. So Krishna just took his his komodaki, club to club, and he killed Dantavakra. And then his brother was the last demon remaining, Vidurata. That he took his chakra and just slid off his head. Now he was where he wanted to be. No more demons to kill. Right at the entrance of Braj, he told Dwarka, "You wait outside. I'm going to return to Braj now." So when he entered, he didn't enter immediately. He played his flute. Mother Yasoda, Nand Maharaj, everyone came out, not the gopis. They stayed in their homes. Everyone came out to welcome Krishna and bring him home. So finally, Krishna was back home with Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj. And they said, they saw Dwarka still outside at the gate. "Are you going to leave us again?" "No, this time I'm not going to leave you. Tell me, my dear father and mother, you've suffered so many years. Please tell me your desire." And Nanda Maharaj said, "I want you to make your griha here. I want you to make your house here." So griha means grihini. There has to be a wife, right? Krishna understood that. Nanda Maharaj wants me to get married here. I have 16,108 wives over in Dwarka. Now he wants me to marry here. So he went to Purnamasi. He said, what should I do? My father wants me to get married here and have a house here. Purnamasi said, "Everything is covered." She immediately invoked her disciple, Vishnu Maya. Vishnu Maya is Katyayani, who the gopis worshipped. She appeared in the sky on her lion with her 8 arms and all of her weapons, and she said, "The gopis worshipped me to get Krishna as their husband. Now, when Sita Devi was captured by Ravana, she prayed to me, and I intervened, and I made a fake Sita that Ravana took away, and I kept Sita carefully until Agni Dev let her enter the fire, and then she came out. I have done the exact same thing to all of the gopis. When they had to marry these cowherd boys and men, I made a duplicate set of fake gopis, and I kept the real gopis hidden. Now, you look in all the houses, and you'll see they're the fake gopis serving their husbands. And the real gopis, they are with me. So Katyayani explained to Purnamasi that now Krishna can actually fulfill the desires of all the gopis by marrying them, the real gopis. The fake gopis will stay in the homes of the gopas, and the real gopis will go to their father's homes, and Krishna will have a massive marriage ceremony. He'll expand himself to marry all of the gopis. Now this is the way Jiva Goswami explains how, when they went to their home, those were the fake gopis, and the real gopis were being kept by Katyayani, so that when Krishna returned to Braj, after all the demons were killed, he then married them and lived with them. And then Jiva Goswami, he explains the married life of Krishna. He did all the same pastimes, except when he came home, you'll see maps of Nandagram. Radharani has her home, her Sakis have her home. They would all serve just like a wife to Krishna. So this is how Jiva Goswami has combined the two, so that now this Parakiya rasa becomes acceptable to all classes of men, because Krishna actually married all of the gopis. There's a beautiful marriage ceremony. In fact, there was when Rishabhanu was arranging for the marriage of Radha with Krishna, he came and his family members said, well, we see that in your line, you're not actually a pure Vaishya. They were trying to, this is what happens when you arrange marriages. Then Madhu Mangala, he saved the day. He said, yes, but in your line, you have some Brahmin. Way, way back, there's some Brahmins. So let's not talk about this anymore. Just go on with the marriage. So all of these beautiful pastimes that Jiva Goswami has further elaborated, because Sukadeva Goswami, he had just 7 days. He had a lot to cover in 7 days. 5 whole chapters are committed to this Rasa Leela, but he couldn't give all of the details of the confidential pastimes. This was the seva given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the 6 Goswamis. And Srila Prabhupada recommends, now we have bona fide translations done by Bhanu Swami, done by Gopi Puranadana. We should take advantage of the works of the 6 Goswamis. Even if we only read Nectar of Devotion, we will get so much nectar of the different rasas. Now in Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami, he had to cover all of the 5 rasas. He couldn't give much space to the Madhurya Ras. So then he wrote a voluminous book, because he was in Madhurya Ras. He could understand Madhurya Ras. Voluminous book, Ujjvala Nilamani, all about the mellows of Madhurya Ras. This is very advanced for us. We're not ready for this. We can take the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just like he inquired from Ramananda Roy. We just have to read, because Prabhupada gave us that samvad. If we read that, we will get all of the essence of Madhurya Ras and understand the love between Krishna and the gopis and Radharani, if that's what we're interested in. So if we only want to read Srila Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada has given us everything up to Chaitanya Charitamrita. And if we're feeling that we want to learn more, we have permission from Srila Prabhupada, spoken in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that we're allowed to read more, to understand the further pastimes that Krishna manifested while he was here on the planet. So if there are any questions, that's as much as I was able to study for this sloka. Any questions?
Good to have you back. So, obviously it's the highest perfection, the love of Krishna with the gopis, and Prabhupada did disclose in Nectar Devotion in Krishna book early on, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that people who are unqualified, that don't understand it anyway, I shouldn't be presenting such subject matter, but for those who are devotees can appreciate it, those who are fools and rascals, they won't understand anyway, so I'll go ahead. So, but better that in the line of Prabhupada and the mood of Prabhupada, that we, do discuss it properly according to Guru Parampara, so that in even advising, not advising, but suggesting that it's permissible to read the Goswami's books, should be careful not to, venture too far away from Prabhupada's books, because everything is, as Mother Daivi Shakti said, in those books, and all the realizations, and that only comes by Guru and Krishna's mercy anyway, so you can read as many books as you want, you won't go anywhere unless you're pleasing to the spiritual master. More of a comment, but if you want to.
Because we're going through verse by verse, and I prayed to Srila Prabhupada, is it audacity to speak further from Gopal Champu? But the pastimes are just so interesting, and so few devotees have time to read these books, which 52 years now, finally, I'm touching these books. Because reading Prabhupada's books over and over and over and over and over, you want to know more. You're thirsty for more. So if I've offended anybody by speaking from the 6 Goswamis' books, I beg forgiveness. But Jiva Goswami gave these pastimes to us so that we can reconcile this svakiya and parakiya rasa and not fall into the sahajiya platform. That's for our benefit. That Krishna actually married the gopis, he went back to Godhead, he lived in the same home with them as husband and wife in the spiritual world, and still he was in this Bhoma Lila, he was able to have this parakiya rasa manifested. All right, so it's just so that devotees who don't have time to read these books, because when you get old, I can't do all the things that I used to do, so I take shelter of the books and trying to understand every word. Just like every word in this is the way Prabhupada would give his classes. He would take apart every single word of the sloka and expand upon it. So just as in this one, anicchantyo to icha, anicca. They didn't desire to go back to their home. But because the time was such that they had to go back to their home, they went back. So how Prabhupada gave his classes, and sva-gṛhān, bhagavat-priyāḥ, they were so dear to the Supreme Lord. So we can expand as much as our intelligence takes us, as much as we've read, and hope that it doesn't offend the devotees when we speak things that they might not have heard before in Srimad Bhagavatam classes. So I beg forgiveness if anyone is offended by this class. You have a question?
Means already 5,000 years ago, Vrindavan was in this frost layer. Now we cannot go deep in the pastime of Krishna because we are in the Vrindavan with the material layer. Means also 5,000 years ago was this layer of material things, the gopi married with his gopa, and the other one, under the material layer, the Krishna married all the gopis, original one.
Yes. The
Clear?
the Bhoma Lila and the Nitya Lila are slightly different in the sense that the mood is different. And that was to further attract the living entities. Because living entities, many of them are married, and still they want to surrender to Krishna, just like the wives of the Brahmins. So Krishna gives the instruction how to surrender to him through these pastimes. That's why he mentioned that sloka twice. Now Prabhupada explains, because these pastimes occurred in Dwapara Yuga, and at that time, having just descended with Krishna and Srimati Radharani, Govardhan Hill came, Jamuna came, they all came from the spiritual world, and now they've been left here. In Kali Yuga, Prabhupada explains that it's just like gold. It's still gold, but in Kali Yuga there's a tarnish, a black tarnish, so that you can't see the Dham. But those who are engaged, as Krishna says, in chanting, in hearing, in seeing the deity, in doing in meditating, they can enter into the Dham even with all this contamination, with the cars, the buses, the pollution. Prabhupada would say, don't think that you're going to be able to find Krishna hiding in a bush here. That's not the way we see Krishna. We see Krishna with our spiritual senses. And that's why it's explained the gopis, they were lying right next to their husbands. In their spiritual bodies, they went to Krishna and engaged in all these pastimes. And those pastimes are unlimited. When we first, in the very beginning of ISKCON, we didn't have books to distribute. We had Back to Godheads stapled together, like that. And we would spend 10 to 12 hours a day on Sankirtan. That's it. That's what we did. We did Sankirtan in the streets. So when you're doing Sankirtan for 10 to 12 hours a day, I'm sure the Kirtan boys will also agree to this, your meditation takes you right here. Dancing with Krishna, singing with Krishna. So when we were dancing on the street in all the cities around the world, spiritually we were dancing with Krishna in the spiritual world, because where else can the soul go? Rather than looking outwards, you internalize and you're dancing with Krishna. So anytime we're engaged in kirtan, we're there in the spiritual world with Krishna and all of his associates. And that's why Krishna 2 times gave that sloka, that you have to chant about me, you have to see me, you have to meditate on me, and then actually you'll be with me. So all of our pastimes, we have a gross material body engaged in activity, but with our spiritual body, we can always be with Krishna in this Maharaj, the eternal dancing party of Krishna. That's what Prabhupada recommends. Any more questions?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your brilliant class. I'm praying to Radhasham that I don't ask a question which I may get chastised for. But I just wanted to say that what Panchapura Prabhu said and what you said, this was so relevant for all of us to hear, at least for me, because we don't get to hear enough of what you shared today, actually. And since this Gopi Rasa dance-related class chapter has been going on, all we've been really hearing, louder than anything else, is we should not delve, we should not delve, we should not tread into these pastimes at all. And I'm not suggesting that we should, but what you said, that reading these other books a little bit after having studied Prabhupada's books for so long, and what you are giving to us, I feel that it's very important, and I wanted to ask you, Mataji, what your view is on this, because I think you've shared it already. Because I've had many very serious friends who were in Vrindavan, in ISKCON, but I'm sad to say that they left because they were yearning. They were very sincere devotees, but they were yearning to hear a little bit of what you just shared. And because they didn't get it, they decided to leave.
Well, that's why I give classes like this, I'm sorry to say.
Sorry?
Because that's why I give classes like this. I admit I overstep, but devotees are yearning to hear about the pastimes of Krishna. So,
we pray little bit more actually, just so we can get enough. You know how much we can take and we're okay to hear. And you gave this, so I wanted to just thank you and also make this point that some devotees have been leaving for certain reasons.
You don't have to go anywhere. Prabhupada has given us everything, and he's given us permission to study all of the 6 Goswamis' books. All right? Everything is right here. Prabhupada's mercy. Hare Krishna. All glories to Prabhupada.